Hey there, and welcome back to our channel. Today, we're going to talk about something that can feel like a big, scary monster for a lot of kids, and even for us parents. Homework. Does your child ever get that tense, anxious feeling when it's time to open their books? You're not alone. We're going to share a little story today called The Homework Monster, a gentle way to help children understand and cope with homework stress. Rena was a bright and curious girl who loved school. She loved learning about planets, enjoyed drawing colorful pictures, and was always excited to see her friends. But there was one word that made her feel like a heavy stone had dropped into her stomach: homework. Every afternoon, when her teacher announced the homework for the day, Rena would feel a familiar wave of dread. It wasn't that she found the work too hard. In fact, she often knew the answers. The real problem was a secret fear she kept hidden inside. It was the fear of making a mistake. For Rena, a blank page wasn't a space for new ideas. It was a field full of potential wrong answers. Every question felt like a test, and every empty line seemed to be judging her. This fear grew into a giant, shadowy creature in her mind. She started calling it the homework monster. This monster would whisper mean things in her ear as she tried to work. "You're going to get it wrong," it would hiss. "Everyone else is smarter than you," it would grumble. "The teacher will think you didn't listen." The homework monster made her stomach churn and her hands feel clammy. Some days she would just stare at the page for hours, too scared to even start. Her parents noticed how quiet and stressed she became around homework time. They saw her erasing her answers over and over again until the paper was thin and smudged. They tried to help, but Rena would just get more upset, thinking she was disappointing them too. She felt trapped by this invisible monster. One evening, Rena was sitting at her desk, tears welling up in her eyes as she looked at a page of math problems. The homework monster felt bigger than ever, looming over her shoulder. Her father came into her room and saw how distressed she was. He pulled up a chair and sat beside her, not saying anything at first. He just put a comforting hand on her back. Then he said softly, "It looks like the homework monster is visiting again. He seems pretty big tonight." Rena looked up, surprised. She didn't know her dad knew about the monster. She nodded, a tear rolling down her cheek. Her father smiled gently. "You know," he said, "monsters like this are actually scaredy cats. They feed on fear, but they shrink when you face them. How about we fight this one together?" He took out a blank sheet of paper and drew a silly-looking, fluffy monster. "This is our homework monster," he declared. "Now, let's see. What's the first problem?" Rena pointed to it. "Okay," her dad said, "let's try to solve it on this extra paper first. It doesn't matter if we get it right or wrong here. This is our practice field, where mistakes are welcome because they help us learn." They worked through the problem together. Rena gave an answer, and her dad helped her check it. They found a small mistake, but instead of being scary, it was just a clue. "Ah, I see." Her dad exclaimed, "We just needed to carry the one. Easy fix." He then took a red pen and drew a tiny zap symbol on his drawing of the monster. Every time we find a mistake and learn from it, we weaken the monster, he explained. They moved to the next problem. This time, Rena was a little less hesitant. She remembered what her dad said about the practice field. She tried the problem, and they checked it again. It was correct. Her dad cheered quietly and drew a big star next to the monster, making it look even sillier. Slowly, something magical began to happen. With every problem they tackled, whether they made a mistake or got it right, Rena felt the heavy stone in her stomach getting lighter. The shadowy monster in her mind seemed to be getting smaller and less scary. The whispers were fading. She realized her dad wasn't focused on getting perfect answers. He was focused on helping her try it. The fear of being wrong started to melt away, replaced by the warmth of teamwork and the quiet confidence of learning. By the end of the evening, Rena had finished her homework. She looked at her dad's drawing. The once mighty monster was now covered in zaps and stars, looking more like a funny pet than a scary beast. The homework monster hadn't disappeared completely, but it was now tiny and manageable. Rena learned a powerful lesson that night. The monster wasn't in the homework itself, but in her fear of not being perfect, and the best way to fight that fear was with a little bit of courage, a lot of practice, and the support of someone who loves you. This story shows us that it's okay to be afraid of making mistakes. It's a very normal part of learning. If your child is struggling with their own homework monster, maybe you can try this method. Create a practice field where mistakes are not just allowed, but welcomed as learning opportunities.